Hey guys, Caddy to Llama here. Just coming at you guys with another album review. Uh, Today I'm going to be talking about uh, The Course of the Inevitable by Lloyd Banks. I've been listening to this album for the last couple days, really digesting it, really trying to get a good feel for it. I found it rather interesting, a little different than what I've been listening to lately. A lot better content than what I've been digesting recently, and so I really wanted to sit on it and listen to it a lot, and maybe give a better breakdown of it. Um, so um, when I'm listening, you know, when you're listening to some of these guys, it sometimes you can get a feel for a guy um, who's a little bit older, been in the game for a little bit, and I kind of got that vibe from Lloyd Banks. I didn't recognize his name right away, but his sound was very, very similar. I felt that it was very familiar to me, you know. Um, and uh, One of the things I had kind of thought of was it kind of gave me a 50 Cent type vibe, and not remembering who Lloyd Banks was. And as I was doing some research for my breakdown here, I was reminded that he was a member of GUnit, and um, growing up listening to hip hop in the early 2000s, from the late 90s to the early 2000s, and in that era of music, I really grew up listening to a lot of 50 Cent, G Unit, The Game. I listened to a lot of those guys, and so um, he was very, very familiar. Uh, I was very, very familiar with him, even though he hasn't put out an album since 2010. He kind of took a little sabbatical and recently came back with this self-produced um, uh, comeback album from his own label. So it, it it was very, very interesting. You know, I think that when you're first listening to it, the first couple songs just kind of smack you in the mouth a little bit. Not Pop Smoke smack, but he definitely got some punch to him. He's got that G Unit game punch to him still. And especially with his voice. He's got a raspy voice, much like the game, and he puts a lot of emphasis and a lot of punch and a lot of tone into his lyrics, where you can feel a lot of energy coming out of the you can feel a lot of energy coming out. So it's not just what he's saying, but how he's saying it. It's part of his style. And then um, the beat selection was just really, um, I found really interesting, because how the album starts is not how the album finishes. It definitely evolves over the 18 tracks in the album, and it's 18 tracks. It's not 9 tracks and 9 skits. There's no skits. It's 9 track. It's 18 tracks, and it really evolves. I mean, it starts off with heavy beats, heavy drums, piano, um, really just punching you, boom. Like the that kind of 2000s vibe to it, and then it just slowly evolves into more softer beats as his content, as the lyrics evolve and the songs evolve. Excuse me. The beats evolved. they become softer. There's some chimes and keyboard and um, just softer feel to it, in the second half of the album. And I would be curious to find out how long he was writing this album and what spaces he was writing it. Maybe the first part was written years ago, and then recently he's just gone back and finished it up. Or is this something he'd worked on, only over the last year or two, and he put the whole thing together. I'm very curious. But um, lyrically, super talented. Um, there was nothing there that I would say there are no limitations lyrically. Um, he was able to put straight rhymes together, vowel rhymes together. Um, he was able to put a lot of themes. He's able to stay in a lot of themes. Um, and the stories in the not stories but the essence of the songs were really really good. I he talked a lot about where he grew up in New York and how he came up and the friends he's lost along the way and how he misses those friends and he wishes that they could go back and rewind and stuff and um, a lot of reflection, especially in the second half of the album. There's a lot of reflection there where he's just looking back in the past, and talking about a lot of things. Where the first half of the album is more punchy in the mouth, my favorite tracks on the album were Crown, Break Me Down, and then I really like Pain, Pressure, Paranoia. I think the whole scheme on Pain, Pressure, Paranoia was so good because he ties the whole chorus together with Pain, Pressure, and Paranoia, but he breaks it up to where it's a couple lines where he's talking about pain, a couple lines pressure, a couple lines paranoia, and it just really was the demonstration of his ability to put the scheme on there, and what he was talking about in that song. Um, I am curious about one of his songs, Stranger Things. Um, I believe it's the second to last album, second to last track on the song, maybe third to last track. At one point, he has a line where he says, "Call me quiet, call me lazy, talent never faded," and um, I'm almost wondering if this song was kind of a call out to 50 Cent, because 50 Cent recently come out and kind of laying a little bit of the smoke on him and was saying that, Lloyd Banks was lazy and said a lot of things about him. And so um, I would like to know, call me lazy. That's literally like a quote. That's like he's quoting 50 Cent's, line he was saying about him. So, are we seeing a little beef? Are we seeing a little, friends taking some shots at each other? I don't know. It's something we may see come to fruition here. I know 50 Cent hasn't really done much, over the last 10, 12 years. He's put out few songs here and there, some features here and there, especially with Eminem. But it's not like 50 Cent's been out here tearing it up for the entire time Lloyd Banks was in on his sabbatical. So, we'll have to see. It'll be something interesting to watch in the future. It's definitely something I'm going to be keeping an eye on. As somebody who grew up listening to, 50 and GUnit and this is definitely, um, stirring up some kids, stirring up some stuff from in my teen years, when I was younger. So, Something I'm going to keep my eye on, but it's definitely a. I can't put it as an S tier album. Um, definitely, definitely an A tier. I would put it in an A tier album lyrically. Nothing holding him back. Um, the beat selection I thought was very good. Storytelling was very good. It's a very listenable album. Throughout all 18 tracks, I found very listenable. The only downside would be maybe not the most talented artist flow wise. Not going to jump around in the beat. I mean, he does have, he does have a flow or two that he shows, but he can get on the gas and give you a lot of, a lot of endurance bars, but you know, he's not gonna speed up, slow down, story, speed up. He's not gonna jump around. Um, and so if we're gonna nitpick, that's definitely the weaker part of his game, at least in this album. And what he put on tape. So, but other than that, all very good. He checks a lot of boxes. It's a really good album. Um, I would say an A tier album. From probably an A tier artist. So, uh, if you guys want to check it out, I would recommend it. If you're looking to get into some lyrics, dive into some, a little bit of a more classic feel artist. Lloyd Banks is definitely one of those guys. I would highly recommend it. So yeah, just hit me up in the comments, hit the like, subscribe button, tell me what you guys thought, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks.